Morning, explorers. Recently I saw a video about some fire start cubes by Duraflame. And in the video, the guy started a fire using wet wood. I lit a couple of these the other day, and they really burn well, but I want to see, will they really start a wet fire? So what I've done is I've taken some wood and I've literally soaked it in a bucket for 24 hours. This is the bucket right here. And let's see if we can start a fire with it. So I'll start off with a flat piece of wood there. I'm going to try 3 cubes just to be sure. And normally I'd have some pretty fine fire starting material if, you know, I was doing this in a professional way. But let's just say you're in the woods and you're just going to use what you can find, and that isn't much. Let's see what we can do here. Like I said, these have been soaking for 24 hours now. Let's just see what we can do. I think it's going to work, but we'll find out. And just to make it good, let's really just smother the thing with lots of wood. See what happens. You know, make sure the wet end's on that. Excuse me. Alright, that's about as wet as you get. Let's see what happens here. Dry my hand off so I don't put my Bic lighter out. A little hard to light with the lighter. There we go. Now while we're waiting for it to start, this is the stuff I'm using. I get this at Walmart, 18 cubes, excuse me, for $5. That's a pretty good price. They say it takes 2 cubes to start a fire. I'm using 3. Whew. The thing I hate about this GoPro is the monitor turns off after a couple of seconds, so I can't honestly see that it's recording, but I believe that it is. As you can see, those cubes put out a good amount of flame. You wouldn't want to use these for cooking because there is a lot of black smoke that comes off of them and a pretty strong odor. But if you're in a survival situation, you don't want to be messing with fire. You want it to just start up. At least I do. You don't want to be out there messing with bow drills and stuff like that. I might be pushing a little bit, using wood that's actually been underwater for 24 hours. But if it'll start this, it'll start anything. You guys ready for summer? We're going to hit our first hot day here in Bakersfield. It's supposed to be 87. Well, it's not our first hot day, but I do believe this is the beginning of summer. I think the wet weather is gone and summer's upon us. Within the next 7 days, we're going to be up into the upper 90s is the forecast. And the cloudy skies are going to be gone, and it's just going to be sunny for 6 months, pretty much. Wish I'd timed this, but I didn't. But we've been going for a couple of minutes. As you can see, it's putting a lot of fire on that wood. Whether it is enough to start this wet wood or not, I don't know. Interesting to find out. Of course, if I was starting a fire, I'd probably start off with some wood shavings, bird's nest, you know, any small stuff, you know, pine needles, any small stuff that I could find. But I just really wanted to be extreme with this and just throw some small chunks of wood in there without that and see what would happen. It's starting to pop pretty good. As you can see, that's putting out quite a flame. I was really impressed with how much flame this put out. It's not like, you know, you can buy the Esbit cubes, you can buy the Coughlin cubes. It's not like that, and it's not meant for cooking. It's just meant for starting a fire. And it seems like every time I go to the store, I see new methods for fire starting. They've got resin squares and all kinds of stuff, but I like these. They're small, they're lightweight, and easy to start. Just takes a lighter to do it. And while we're watching it start, and I do see wood starting to burn while we're watching it start, just wondering what everybody's plans are for summer. You going to go out to the high country, or are you going to go down and tough it out in the desert? If you go out to the desert, I really recommend getting yourself a personal beacon device. All the survival tips in the world are all good to know, but if you're in a life or death emergency, because it's not just being thirsty and having a lack of water that'll kill you, it's heat stroke. You know, that's when the personal beacon can save your life. I finally got one this year, thanks to a friend of mine that was nice enough to send me one. Thank you, John. I really appreciate that. And I'm going to take it with me everywhere I go, especially out on the trail. If you leave it in the pack, it isn't going to help you. And you never know what can happen out on the trail. You know, one of the most amazing stories I heard recently was one of our members was out hiking. I think it was in the El Paso Mountains, but I'm not sure. And he slipped and he fell, and he got his head wedged into a space between two basalt rocks. And he tried to pull his head out, and he couldn't do it. So he's sitting there, head first, head wedged in, you know, out in the middle of nowhere. He screamed for help for a while. Nobody came. Finally, he just decided that, you know, even if he ripped his ears off or whatever, he had to pull his head out. That's what he did, and scraped him up pretty bad, but he got out okay. But what if it had been worse? Or what if you'd broken a leg or something like that? So it's really good to have these devices, and they can only help you if you have them on your person at all times. The one that I got's called an ACR, and there's a couple of things I like about it. Number one, it has a cover that hides the button, so that means you're not going to accidentally push the button and have a helicopter come down out of the sky, and you're like, what are you doing here? Yeah, we're here to save you, right? But that cover covers it, and then moreover, if you open the cover up, you have to push and hold down two buttons simultaneously for a second. You do that, and they're coming for you. The other thing I like about this is there's no monthly fee. You just sign in through NOAA, N-O-A-A, NOAA, and you're good to go. So that's what I've chosen as a device. Actually, somebody chose for me, and that's what I'm using. Okay, we're about 5-6 minutes in. These things are still, you know, the fire starters are still burning pretty good. And I can see some of the wood's burning. Not as much as I thought would, but I do believe that wood is beginning to burn. And once again, for any that maybe didn't see the beginning of this video, I soaked this wood in a tub of water for 24 hours before I put it on this fire. I figured that if I can start this, I can start anything, any kind of wet wood. The only exception might be, I'm thinking driftwood down at the ocean. That stuff has really absorbed a lot of water. It's pretty hard to start. I don't do too much hiking at the ocean though. I think in the forest or the deserts, you'd probably be fine with this. And that fire is burning. And I think I'm going to add these to my survival gear. I think this is going to be a good addition, actually. If you guys see little things moving around in the edge of the screen, we have a bunch of little frogs. They're about, not even the size of a quarter, and they're everywhere. Toads, actually. We're next to a sump, and so we get a lot of toads. We get a lot of birds and stuff like that as well. We had a few reservations when we first moved in here about living next to a sump as to what would come over into our yard. But it's really turned out to be a pleasant thing, you know. We have so much wildlife that it's really nice. Used to be that we had kit foxes living in the sump, but they've relocated them because when we first moved here, we were on the edge of town. Now we're no longer on the edge, so kit foxes are probably better off out in the woods. Let me move this over a little bit, get my camera out of the smoke. If you go over to here, you can see that that fire is definitely burning right now on its own. So there you have it. I mean, 3 cubes, lit them on fire, had some wood that I'd soaked in that bucket over there. Can you see it? Right there for 24 hours, and it started the fire. I don't know how much better it can get than that. So, on that note, I'm going to sign off, and I'll talk to you later.